Howdy, folks, and welcome to your storm chasing forecast show for Friday, July 17th. It's my mom's birthday, actually, so make sure you wish
Uh,
her a happy one.
Happy birthday.
So appreciate that, Cameron. I'm Gabriel Harbor. He's Cameron Nixon, of course, and we've got an interesting little setup here at the top of the United States there in the Upper Peninsula, northern Minnesota, I guess east northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin area. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, we can sit here from Oklahoma and Ohio and try to quarterback that it's a marginal or a 2%. But when you think about it, if I was a Minneapolis chaser, it might be interesting if you could actually chase out in this area.
Kind of
Mo-
interesting is a great segue because I have a fun little anecdote that I found when I was learning a little bit more about
oh,
the Upper
please.
Peninsula. If
Yes.
you folks out there are anything like me, sometimes you'll get like an idea in your mind when you're researching something completely separate and you're like, I got to go into a Wikipedia rabbit hole for the next 15 minutes and learn about this weird little thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, how the heck did the Upper Peninsula get like that? I hope this is correct information because I'm going to sound like an idiot if it's not. But I guess there was a battle between Ohio and Michigan at one point over something called the Toledo Corridor. Because of some weird drawings on the maps, both states believed that they actually had claim to the Toledo Corridor, which of course included Toledo.
Oh.
Used to be a major city back in the Industrial Revolution and all that jazz. So Ohio ended up getting Toledo, obviously, and I guess as a consolation prize, the U.S. government gave Michigan the Upper Peninsula area as part of its state as well.
This rings a bell. I don't want to say you're right, and it sucks because I literally lived in Michigan and I don't know this, but like that does ring a bell. I guess I thought it was a battle between Wisconsin and Michigan, which would make more sense, but
That
I
might actually be it. I could have made that completely up, so don't hold me to it. But people didn't.
Cameron
People
did
didn't.
make up history facts.
People didn't come here to listen to fun geography facts with Cameron and Gabe. So let's go ahead and get into the setup. Cameron, what do you want to look at first?
Incredible. Yeah, let's look back at our 500 millibar pattern, and this will remind us why we've been in such an uninteresting pattern for the longest time. You could obviously see there's no flow anywhere in the main heartland of the US. Maybe some cutesy little tropical systems down here in Oklahoma. I know it's been a little bit wet here, and especially down into Texas. However, you go up north and you can ultimately find the jet stream, as has been the theme this year. Pretty intense jet stream here in the southern Canada and the Northeast. I think that is a byproduct of that negative NAO that we've had pretty much this entire year. We've had this blocking, this troughing over much of the East Coast. So pretty strong winds up here aloft. And as we go later on into today, you can see another kind of shorter wave trough developing over southern Canada, moving down, taking that same trough path. You can see the same thing on 700 millibars, cute little shortwave trough that could serve as the focus for some kind of unsettled weather up here in the upper Great Lakes region. So we can look down at our surface pattern. We have a low pressure forming in conjunction with that trough. Dragging behind it, this is just really classic for this area, just a long, dry line, cool front kind of feature where we could get sporadic convection up and down that later on in the day. And if we look at our dew points, we can see we're still rocking these 70-degree dews that we had yesterday. And right along the front, we should have some kind of dew point maximum and then that wind shift. So right off the bat, like this is something that I like. Remember, we don't really like these boundaries that are extremely sharp and have lots of cold air behind them. This isn't really that. It is decently sharp, but it has still moisture behind that dry line. It's not some, or I can't even call it a dry line anymore, that kind of cold front. It's not your classic crashing cold front that really puts an end to discrete supercells.
Now, Cameron, I was a little bit worried there for a moment when you were talking about the blocking pattern that you were going to refer to it as a heat dome. I'm very glad that you chose to steer clear of that because
You gave
God
it.
forbid,
It's not a heat dome. It's a. I'll
God
remember
forbid you
that.
actually said the words, man. I appreciate you saving us here.
Yeah, I'm gonna save you. But yeah, we're not going into that tonight. But thankfully, that heat dome is breaking down over this kind of area. We can pluck a couple soundings to see what the wrap has, and we can look in NAM World 2 wrap soundings, and I kind of believe this because this is what we had yesterday evening with that supercell up north and northern North Dakota. Really not bad temperature profile. You have that almost 90 over low 70s, lots of very low level cape, right? Our surface parcel can get you 150 joules per kilogram of 3 cape. That's quite a bit. And then very full, deep cape profile above that, and lots of dry air aloft too. And we can maybe check out, I'm going to do a NAM nest and just see what we're doing around that frontal boundary. And pretty much same thing, 90 over low 70s. Again, this is a spectacular cape profile for supercells, especially that are vaguely photogenic too. What I don't like is this shear. You probably saw that in the wrap too. The shear is not too great. I could pull this up again. We're removed from the main jet axis here. That main jet axis was a little bit more further north. So we're dealing with just the outer fringes here of shear. So if there is a way to get forcing and CI further north up here, of course, obviously you're dealing with Lake Superior. You'd probably have a little bit more robust of a severe threat, but especially for you Minneapolis chasers, you're kind of going to be on the fringes of that good shear. And I think that's kind of going to be the main limiting factor. But low level cape, definitely not the limiting factor. You could see a pretty large reservoir of that going all the way up to the Duluth area. So definitely something that gets me excited. And if there's some kind of boundary interaction, last night's supercell was actually really fascinating. You had that supercell maintaining itself by continuously propagating and anchoring to that boundary. If such an evolution happens, then you might be cooking. But if not, you're probably just going to be dealing with these kind of weak, pulsy multi-cell storms.
The Chaser Academy is the best deal in storm chasing, and it costs less than a combo meal at McDonald's. Unlock instant access to exclusive storm chasing presentations, participate in live group coaching sessions, and get answers to all of your questions in the unlimited Q&A chat. Whether you're a beginner, a veteran, or somewhere in between, our expert coaches will help you take your storm chasing experience to the next level. Click the join button below this video or on our profile page and enroll in the Chaser Academy right now. You've pulled quite a few Hodographs so far, and they all are super cute, really tiny. And I'm just wondering, is there a limit to the scaling that you can do up or down with Hodographs, where even if it has the perfect shape, if it's small enough, there's just not enough of an actual physical difference in between the winds at that level for it to actually matter? Or does that kind of scale down and scale up pretty much as long as you have the shape?
Yeah, man, I really wish I could answer this like a smart person. However, I've definitely noticed something just in practice that might be useful. And what I've noticed is that the smaller and smaller your Hodographs get, obviously they are less conducive for severe weather in general. However, if you have lower LCL storms and potentially mini supercell, something about that seems to utilize these smaller Hodographs better. Don't quote me on this. This is not a Sam Brandt level insight here. This is just me spitballing. It seems that most of the time these small Hodographs are no bueno for severe or supercells. However, if you get a true low LCL mini supercell, these do seem to be enough for that.
And that actually jives with what I was thinking. I don't know if this actually makes sense or not, but I was thinking to myself, that's a lot of cape to cram to such a tiny Hodograph. It's like, what you gonna do with all that junk in that Hodograph trunk? That's just, I don't know. So it does make sense that a more mini supercell profile, thermodynamic profile, maybe would actually suit something like that a little better.
Yeah, I wish I knew why. I'm gonna have to chew on that actually now. But this combination does not jive with me personally. However, I think you caught me here. I'm pulling Hodographs behind the front. You see that? We got northwestern. So I did a no-no here when I plucked this sounding. So let me pluck one that's actually ahead of that boundary. Oh, wow, that actually looks a little bit better.
Yeah, I was going to say, that actually looks, dare I say, robust.
It actually does, yeah. So not bad. Again, this is NAM world. Maybe if I switch to her, we take off our rose-colored glasses a bit. But I definitely did a no-no there, and I'm not too happy about that. But yeah, this is, I think, what most of the other models have is kind of that weaker shear, a little bit more straight line too.
Love the Sam Brandt mention, by the way. That guy's an absolute machine.
Yes. Now, if you don't follow Sam already, like he probably, if he's watching this, has some kind of theory on why that is and can probably solve it mathematically. I'm afraid I'm not smart enough to do that.
He is definitely on my wish list for folks that I would love to have associated with SEC at some point in the future. So no pressure, by the way, and I definitely wouldn't want anyone listening to this to send Sam a message and be like, hey, they were talking really kindly about you on the forecast show over there. Definitely don't do that. That wouldn't be cool.
No, just a really, really good person and a really good teacher, too, I've noticed.
Yep, I interviewed him on Chaser Chat a couple of times before, and he just blows my mind every time I talk to him.
Yeah.
Is it that time, Cameron, for everybody's favorite part of the show?
Yep.
Cam versus Cams. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we'll see if our cams, again, what I like to do as a forecaster is get a handle on the setup first and see, are the cams supporting or going against what we think is going to happen? And then that can teach us in turn something more about the setup. And so far, the herd looks pretty much like we've been expecting. Some supercell-ish activity, some other kind of popcorny weak shear storms. Really not enthusiastic, but as you know, the herd generally is not enthusiastic, especially with these little bit drier setups. Maybe the NAM will show maybe an opposing story. It actually has an interesting, not really a zipper, but it's got that look that these storms are interacting with the boundary, moving southward along it, propagating along it, kind of like what we had last night. Probably a little bit different though. But overall, a little bit more optimistic scenario for you folks in Rice Lake who like looking at trees in the summertime. You can check out the RFS, see if it is really not liking this. Maybe some lake breeze action in the UP or extreme northern Wisconsin. That might be kind of interesting. And then switch to SSL. Kind of same story here. So generally pretty good agreement that something goes along this corridor, probably is supercellular briefly. And I don't think that 2% is not warranted. It's certainly not nothing.
I have something I'm going to throw at you. I'd like to start letting people know what they can look at for the day if it starts to evolve and it looks like it's going to uptrend. Maybe people who are on the fence, maybe people who can't really figure out whether or not they should go this direction or that direction. What should people be looking for in this particular setup that would give you the green light and tell you that it was good to go?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I think we could be doing more of that. I would be looking for a sharp boundary. Just like what happened last night. We had a very sharp surface boundary. You could see it delineated on radar. I'd be looking for a sharp boundary and one that does not have much cloud cover around it. I think that would lead to the best case scenario where you have these strongly surface forced updrafts that kind of anchor to that boundary and then produce kind of a larger supercell capable of all hazards. I think that is possible. I think what I'm afraid of from a lot of these other cams is maybe you have a more diffuse boundary, maybe one that's not really able to fire much more than some popcorn convection. Because if you remember, the stronger your boundary is, the more likely you're able to get CI. And I think CI might actually be the limiting factor. So definitely if you wake up, it's clear outside, don't have any of that darn smoke, and then you have that fine line signature on radar coming out of Fargo, moving down into central Minnesota. I think that's your cue to take a peek out there.
And it's a great opportunity for you folks to utilize WeatherFront, the awesome browser application that you see in front of you right now. It's also available on mobile, and I believe a little birdie told me that it's available on Android now, although they haven't, I believe at least as of this moment, made a large sweeping announcement about it. But their dual pane feature now allows you to put like radar. Oh, what'd you say, Cameron?
They're being pretty quiet about it.
They are, man. It makes me wonder if like something's about to happen. I don't know, dude. I'm kind of scared, but they have a really cool dual pane feature where you can put the radar in one pane, and I believe you can put the satellite in the other. So when you were talking about cloud cover, looking for breaks, and also being able to look for boundaries, WeatherFront's a great tool for that. So if you don't have that yet, folks, 7-day free trial, click the link in the description. Remember to check out those links in the description below, and then watch another video.